shine so bright, you might go blind, blind, blind. When I walk through, they close their blinds.
Hey family, what's going on? It is your girl, Firestarter Jess. For all my oldies but goodies, thank you for coming back. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you for rocking out with your girl. For all my newbies, thank you for coming on today and joining this video. I would like to ask you to subscribe to the channel, like, share, comment into the comment section so it could be an interactive experience. And don't forget to press that notification bell so that you can see all the videos that I have coming here. So I just wanted to do that welcome real quick. I hope that you guys get comfortable. This is going to be a longer video. I might have to stop and then continue, and that might be like in a whole nother day because I'm going to get this out there. I feel like I have been telling my story but hurrying it up, and God is basically prompting me to sit down, get comfortable, get it all out. And one thing I want to point out about our stories or our testimonies, you overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the words of our testimony. But I have found that when I get in front of the camera and I record what I'm feeling, how it's made me feel, whatever I'm experiencing, what I'm learning, all these things are so therapeutic and they're enriching, and they literally have thrusted me into a place of healing and overcoming and growth. And I am so excited. And I just pray that you will find the power in your testimony, in your story, that you will recognize that it doesn't make you weak to actually I've gone through some things. You're actually strong, and find strength and comfort in knowing that honestly, it's not happening to you, it is happening for you. But you have to make those decisions that's going to make sure that you don't stay in a cycle, but you break free and that you move on into victory, right? So I just wanted to share those parts with you. Let's get on into the topic. And this topic is going to be the real deal because your girl was on her way to hell. And I'm so glad that we have such a gracious, a merciful, and kind Father that He will do whatever it takes to get us right with Him. He will move mountains. Do you know the word of God says that to the one, right? So it's 100 sheep. He will go after the one and leave the 99 behind because that one is so important to Him. So I just want you to know that you are important, that He will give you every opportunity to make it right with Him, that He will move mountains for you. There's the song, Reckless Love, I think, and a part of the song, the singer says, there's no mountain that He won't kick down, no lie He won't tear down, coming after you. It's more to it. Check that song out, Reckless Love. I think it's by Cody Ashbury. But honestly, God will move mountains just for you. You are important to Him. You are valuable. He created you for a purpose, and what's happening, it's not gonna devastate God's plan, because ultimately it is God's plan that will stand. Okay, so I just wanted to leave that little bit of encouragement before we go in there. So let's get into it. So yeah, I am back. Your girl did some notes this time because what I was realizing that was happening to me was I would sit down to share my story and I would lose points that was so like strong in my spirit and in my heart to want to share, but I would lose those points because I didn't write them down. I would think that I was equipped to really like go for it, get in front of the camera. You need notes, baby. You need to be organized and write it down, make it plain, and all those good things. The word says that, but that's not what I'm talking about. Just write it down so you have it so that you can go back. So if you see me looking down, I'm looking at the notes. The notes are not organized in order, so sometimes it may take me a little second to like really swipe through about what I want to talk about. But yeah, your girl got notes today. So, disclaimer. This in no way, shape, or form is to be a smear campaign. Your girl wants to tell her story. I don't care too much about the other party. My only concern about that situation is that they find God, that they come into complete revelation of who God is, what God stands for, and what He wants to do in their lives. I pray for their soul, that God will have mercy on their soul, but ultimately, when it comes to vengeance and wanting to see that person fall, like I've mentioned before in one of the previous videos, that's up to God. That is God's business. It's not mine. My business is just to move on, to heal, to embrace my growth, to embrace the goodness and the mercy of my Father, and to walk in all truth. So that's the disclaimer. All right. So also, I had pointed out here that this is me taking charge of my healing, and also hoping that me sharing will help someone recognize certain signs and come into a place of steering clear of relationships that will only waste your time and take you off the path of your own destiny. So that is the disclaimer. And see how good notes are? And your girl, she's a writer. Like, she writes in real life, but I don't know why I be running away from the pen. So that's my disclaimer. I hope that you are here for the right reasons. I'm sorry. You see that those little things, I don't know what that is, but it's bugging me. But it looks like glitter, but it looks weird on the screen. So yeah, I honestly, I'm in a good place. I am, doing good. Thanks be to God. All glory to God, because He has kept me in my right mind when some things I've gone through my whole life should have like took me out, should have had me in somebody's asylum or medical ward or something. But God said no. And so that is why I love Him so, because He goes before me. He makes preparations for me. He puts things in place that's just for me. I am so important to Him, and I love Him for that. So let's see what the next point is. All right, so first I wanted to share about how I gave so much away in a relationship because I felt like that relationship was founded on friendship. I'm the type of person, I don't allow a lot of people in my life. I'm actually very guarded. So when I put my guard down and I begin to tell you deep things, that means that I love you. That means that I see value in you. That means that I think you pour into my cup. I think you're awesome. And this is me. When I believe that people are awesome, I think that you should always know. So I'm always building you up. I'm always affirming you. I'm doing things to let you know that you hold value. And so the word friendship for me is a big word. It's a big word. Remember, Jesus laid His life down for His friends. And so friendship for me is a big word. So when I call you a friend, that word holds so much weight, and I will do anything for you. And so because of that word and the depth that it held, I gave away so much. And from the very beginning of this relationship, there were so many behaviors from the opposite party that displayed and was very clear that they weren't considering me a friend, but it wasn't clicking. It wasn't clicking. And then they would say things like, it wasn't my intention. I'm not being careless. I was, it's a mistake. Whatever they would say, and I will be sucked right back into it. Even though I was devastated or disappointed or hurt, I never really held them accountable because they also made it seem like they didn't know what they were doing. And that it wasn't no intent behind it. Like, it just kind of happened. So I let a lot of things slide. I allowed a lot of things. I accepted a lot of things, and I gave and gave, and they took, because that's how they do. So, yeah. So I said that already, where I said I hold that word friend at high regard. When I say someone is a friend, I'll show up for them even if they've disappointed me, because the word says a friend sticks closer than a brother. I struggle because how can you really discard of a friend? I had to realize how I felt about friendships and the value that they held was not the way that other people felt. And that is okay. but you have an opportunity to recognize those things, and you have an opportunity to act based on those facts. And so in the end, I had to make a decision to walk away, and even as painful as it was and confusing as it was, I made the right choice, and I'm so grateful. So you see, this video is probably going to be a completion of me talking about this situation, because I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about what's dead. I've buried it, and this is me just telling my truth. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it, because the goal is not to expose. The goal is not to tell a story from a standpoint like, yeah, I'm right and you're wrong. That's not my goal, and it's not a smear campaign. I've made that clear. My goal is for me to heal. This is for me to take all that happened, and allow God to use the pieces to show me. Because listen, at the end of the day, when it all was said and done, God was showing me. He showed me how easy I had fell in a situation and basically idolized a relationship, made someone else my God. Like, because basically when you get in a relationship and you prioritize somebody on that kind of capacity, and then you're neglecting your relationship and your time with God and your devotion to God and all these things, they have become your God. You have kind of shifted your focus, and God is not going to stand for that. He's not going to place second in any relationship in any capacity, because he's sovereign. Why should he? Right? So that's the next point that I'm going to make. So this part is good. When I got in said relationship, I had already made a vow to myself that I wasn't going to give it a lot of time if it did not seem fruitful or productive or progressive. So I made a vow, an internal vow within my mind. I had said, I gave away my 20s. I gave away all my 20s to a crappy ex that was physically violent, that every chance he got, he was punching holes in the walls. Then he started to physically punch me in my face. And then the fights just got more aggressive and more nasty. And it just was like, it seemed like he wanted to ruin my face, because that would mean ultimately that nobody else would want me. And so I stayed in that relationship all of my 20s. And when I got up, it just felt like I gave away all that time, and it was a waste for me. That's how I felt. But how many of y'all know that God doesn't let anything waste? He literally will use it all for his glory, because your girl does not look like what she's been through, and I don't feel like what I've been through. Honestly, I feel like these are things that have made me so powerful and so strong and so resilient and so persistent and so determined. These things have literally put fuel in my fire. So I'm so grateful for God doing that. And it's amazing. It's amazing. So I already had made up my mind, made a vow to myself that I wasn't going to spend a lot of time there if it wasn't progressive, if it wasn't, God's best for me. Because I had mentioned in the previous video, I said I made that decision. That was my choice. That wasn't God's choice for me. And when I made that vow to myself, I said I wasn't going to give away my 30s also. I was going to, see it for what it is, and I was going to make decisions based on the information and the data. However, early on in the relationship, because everything moved so fast, we had a conversation, and he kind of basically said to me, this is glitter. This is crazy. He kind of said to me, if you decide that you want to break up, I'm going to resent you. He said that, he doesn't really introduce people to his family. So because he had introduced me to his family, he would resent me and all these things. And that pushed so much pressure on me. So when I saw all these red flags, I was afraid to end it, because that meant that I was not only losing a relationship partner, I was losing my friend. Remember, that word friend held more weight than the whole relationship. So when I was having conversations with him constantly, I was saying, I value you as a person, I love you more as a friend. Like, honestly, I just want us to figure this out where both parties are good. So that word, resentment, resent me because I wanted to walk away because I didn't see that it would serve both of us. He made it clear that he would resent me if I decided that I wanted to break up. So basically, I stayed longer than I should have because I was afraid of losing a friend. So yeah, but it only lasted, it was like, honestly, to round it all up, I would say 3 years plus. We did have a longer friendship that was over 12 years prior to everything. So the relationship itself, maybe 3 years, if that, because with so many red flags, you kind of like have made your mind up when you're done. However, we know how that goes. It's kind of like you have to, pace yourself and work out all the details and everything like that. So it took a little bit of time to get those things done. All right, so one more point that I had made was that I would help that person without any questions. You know, so basically, if anything was going on in their lives, if they were facing a rough patch, if they needed any kind of financial assistance, whatever it is, and I can help, I would do it without question. I wouldn't even think about it. I wouldn't even think about what else I got going on. Mind you, I was a single mom of 3 children all by myself, and then now I have a fourth child, and I was still, here I am, giving away my goods. And so I would basically like give away everything. I'm a giver at heart, and that's a beautiful thing. But the Bible says that we need to learn to protect ourselves and guard our hearts and all these good things. And so, because that thing is devastating when the person disappoints you, that you have been there for them, because you're thinking, it's not even about so much about reciprocity. That's beautiful, and I want that for all of us. However, when you're in a relationship, that holds so much more weight because you're thinking, this is my partner. I have your back when you're down, and I, should have you having my back. I should feel the same security, and that wasn't my case. Whenever I needed help, he would literally lose his crap. So basically, like, he would do these like intimidating things when I would say I needed him in any capacity. Like, it was from the sighing, it was so many different things that he did, and it would hurt me to the core because I'm like, I don't respond like that when you need me. Why are you doing that? And what that was doing was, it was causing me basically to never come to him, because it's like, don't come to him with any issues because this is gonna be the response. Why should I, right? So and I think that was intentional. I think he did that on purpose because maybe he that was the message he was sending. So long story short, like, even in the end of the relationship, one of the things that happened to me was that my back was injured, and when I went through that, I was looking for support, and I was looking for comfort, and none of those things ever came. He never took any steps towards helping me or lightening my burden or supporting me through that. And those are the things that shows us that that's no future there. And you know all those signs could have probably been noticed or acknowledged in the beginning when I said I held that word friendship so heavy. For me, it's so much depth in it, and they never showed up really as a friend. That was the red flag to know, like, can you imagine being in a relationship with this person and needing them? If they're doing this within the friendship, where they're dropping the ball, they're disappointing you, they're wounding you, they're doing all these things, how do you think they're going to have the capacity to pick up your load when you have fallen? They just can't. So that was the sign, but I ignored all those signs because, yeah, you're my friend, and I love you, and I love you for who you are and not for what you can do for me. These are the things we tell ourselves, and these are the things that sometimes have us like in situations and places, relationships, things like this that we shouldn't even be in. So I just pray that these things that you're hearing today will help you to make the decisions that you need to. Don't stay if it's not beneficial to your future, to the future of those that are around you. pay attention to the signs and execute on the steps that you need to take in order to build a better life and find that relationship that you're truly desiring. You don't have to keep asking someone to show up the way you need them to show up. If they're showing you how they're going to show up, that's them making it clear that this is the capacity in which I can work, and this is all I have to give, and this is all I'm going to give you. We have to learn to accept what people are showing us. And so I'm going to leave that there. So also, the next part was like basically every time when I wanted to have conversations about things that were important, that person would constantly like dismiss me. So this would look like I would say, hey, something happened, or we need to talk about it, or I'm hurting, or something happened at work, or whatever that may be. He would basically dismiss me. Like it was either him being on the cell phone and not engaged and present in the conversation, or he would like brush me off, or letting me know like he's not really actively listening to me, or things like if I'm bringing up an issue that we're having, he would basically dismiss me by saying, I don't want to fight right now, even though I'm coming with a discussion or a conversation that we need to have. He would basically say, I don't want to fight. And this is just to shut me up, to not proceed, or just, yeah. So those things happen. Also, I wrote this down. So some of the things that he said to me on the outs. I just want to say this. This just came to my mind. These are the reasons why we should do things God's way, because God's way is just so much better. We will avoid all this frustration, all this heartache, all this pain and disappointment if we just do it God's way. God has something better for me. However, I had found something that I thought that was valuable, and I wanted to see where it would go. But God's way is ultimately better. I was even reading the scripture. I believe it's in James, and he was talking about how if we get through temptation, the benefits that we reap, the reward that we reap. And I'm like, God, why didn't I even notice this before? But even in your relationship with God, things are so much clearer when you are, invested, when you are dedicated, and you're really like in it with your heart. And it's not a chore, it's not a checklist. You're really reading it to get full understanding. You'll see things that you never even noticed before. So I just wanted to say that. So what was I going to say? Oh, so basically I was saying how we avoid those things. Some of the things he said to me were things like this. Oh, it wasn't fun anymore. Oh, um, I was sleeping on the couch because I didn't want to play house anymore. Or things like, oh, when I know the relationship was over, when you weren't pulling my hair bumps on my face, like, and I remember like speaking to those points. I'm like, are you kidding me? Because I was like baffled. Even when I asked him if he knew why we broke up, he has absolutely no idea. It is so crazy because I decided to break up because I realized that when I needed him, he couldn't be there for me, and I could no longer keep up. I'm not going to keep on going head on into something with someone that is never going to show up for me, but I'm always dropping everything for you. No. So long story short, one of the last things he said was the hair bump thing. And I was like, bro, do you realize that, my back was messed up? All kinds of things was going on with me. My pay was cut. I'm working, and I'm not, getting everything that I need to keep the life that I have. And I'm a mom of 4, and I have school and all these things going on. And you're thinking about me pulling hair bumps on your face, a comfort for you, as opposed to all the things I got going on. How could you assist me in any of those things? But that's something that he will have to figure out on his own. He never will figure out, because one of the things that I realized too, one of the reasons why I walked away was that he couldn't see himself. Yeah, so All right, so this is a dream. I told y'all this wasn't in order, so I just wrote down all the points that I wanted to touch on. So you see, we're 20 minutes in, and your girl is not even wrapping up because I'm like touching on the points that I saw that I wrote down. So basically, I would get dreams. God was warning your girl, and your girl was still going head on into this situation. One of the first dreams I had, it was a brown skin woman coming to me to tell me that he belonged to her. And I'm like, he belongs to you, girl. Like, what are you talking about? And she kept coming back in my dreams to tell me that he belonged to her, but I ignored it. And so then it started to be dreams like me seeing things that I shouldn't see. One specific dream was like all these different underwears and him seeing multiple different people. I would literally be seeing them, seeing each other, having intimacy, sexual encounters, and it would make me sick. And literally, I still was going head on. I would ask him, what are you doing? Are you giving people ideas that they think that something's going on between you and them? Are you? And however, God was showing me this man's character because I would find things. I would find bras and jewelry and things that he doesn't even know that I've seen because I didn't bring it up. And then I've seen text messages because I'm the type of person I would ask and ask and ask, like, what's going on? What are you doing? Because I would sense it, and he would lie. And one of the things that I learned about him, like, he would lie because if I don't see it, then I have no proof that it happened. But when you see it, he will play it off as if he's so devastated that you saw it. But at the same time, what made you want to go through my phone? What made you want, like, I would see something pop up on the screen and know, like, you need to investigate that more because why are they saying this, or why is their heart there, or whatever. And then that also creates a cycle of you being paranoid because now you can't trust this person. And even though you decide to stay, now you're having anxieties because you stayed and they didn't really do the work to ensure that you can, they could prove that you could trust them. And so it just creates this unhealthy cycle for you. So my God was showing me this guy's character, and I still ignored all the signs. So basically God began to stay quiet, and I wasn't dreaming anymore because I was trusting this guy's voice over what God was saying and what God was showing me. He was doing all these things for my protection. He's never failed me in the area of what he shows me. So I put more weight on this person's, their voice and their words than that of a constant and faithful father. So yeah. I was asked by my therapist why I stayed when I wanted to leave based on our conversations about the traumas within the relationship. And I went on for days like thinking about this question, like, why did you stay when you wanted to leave? Everything in me wanted to leave when certain things happened. When I saw a message about I left one day and he literally was calling somebody else over to come and have intercourse after I left, and we had just, and which is why we shouldn't be participating in these acts before we're under that covenant of marriage, because there's no conviction. He could just tell himself like he's a single man, whatever. I'm just saying, trust God, trust in his ways. It's for your own good. So basically, I thought about this for days. Why did you stay? So because I was thinking about it for days, like I needed an answer for myself. So one day I was driving in my car and finally the answer came. So I had to lie to myself to actually bear this situation and basically stay, right? So what this looked like was, oh, he's a good person, even though every action and everything, the evidence proved that he wasn't a good person. But I would tell myself he's a good person because that was the only way I could stay. That's the only way I could work something out with him because, oh, he's a good person. He just has things that he needs to work on. We're talking about an old behind man. That amount of grace that I gave, that amount of patience, that's for children, not for an old behind man like that. I mentioned in one of the videos that I kind of like, you know, which is also another thing, because that's the spirit of like manipulation, when you're basically doing something based on what you think the outcome would be. So, oh, he's older, he's never gonna play with me like that. It got all that stuff out his system. You think you're in control of what the outcome gonna be because you chose somebody that's well out of your age group, and you're thinking, okay, you know what, this is what my outcome gonna be, because I don't have to deal with what I dealt with the young immature ex. But yeah, we gotta seek God when it comes to everything, even relationships and the people that we date. God, check my motives, help me see me, because that's another thing that God had dealt with me with in the end, which is why the whole topic and theme of this video is I was heading straight to hell. We know that we become one with people when we have intercourse and we are intimate with them. So you begin to see ways in you that weren't there before, but because you're like hooking up with this person, they have those spirits, and they have no conviction. They give in to the flesh. They let everything, perversion and everything, that's their friend. They partake. They're going to fulfill whatever desires that are there. And you, however, you're different, but when you're becoming one with the person, you begin to struggle with these things also. And that speaks so much volumes, even about like how desensitized you can become when you're living in sin. One minute you have these convictions, and if you continue to push past your convictions and partake wholeheartedly in your sin, you will become desensitized. And then now the convictions you once had, basically you're not sensing them anymore, and you begin to become numb to the voice of God and everything. It just seems like it becomes so quiet. And you know what it reminds me of? It's like you being turned over to your reprobate mind. And that's no fun. That's no fun going down this road. Once having a relationship and a deep intimacy with God where you could hear him, and he wants to be a part of everything, and to be completely like, it's not even that you're separated, it's just that you have become so desensitized that the voice of God is no longer the voice that is more clear and loud. It's all the other voice. And that's because, also going back to what I said before, whatever you focus on, it rules in your life. Whatever you feed, it rules in your life. Whatever you give all your dedication and your investments in, all that is what's ruling in your life. So I wanted to make that point, and I hope that helps you also. All right. So going back to the whole question from the therapist, one of the things that I also would notice, that when I stayed, it felt like this person was like, how dare you bring it up? If you stayed, you're never going to let it go. And my response would be like, so you're not doing anything to help me heal and overcome those things, because if I'm asking you to let go of those people and separate yourself from people that you had intimate moments with, physical moments with, and you're telling me you don't have to do that because you don't have to prove anything to me. And that also messes with your self-esteem, because it's like, well, why don't you go and pursue those people if they're so important to you, and leave me be? But because you're choosing to stay, you're the one that's going to have those critical moments, because you weren't true to yourself. You were so much more invested in making this person feel okay, that you are going to be woman enough to stay in something. No, listen, y'all could be woman enough on y'all own. No, I'm not woman enough. Yeah, that's a deal breaker. And that's me coming into my healing and recognizing like what's a no, and that's okay. It's okay. Just like how they have their mind made up on things that they believe and they stand on, you should be okay with what you believe and stand on. And you should be okay with like walking away from things that don't serve those things, those values, those desires and all those things, because you should never be in a relationship that separates you from God. You should never be in a relationship that's not pushing you deeper into that relationship. You want to be connected to people that you guys can build those relationships together, building your spiritual knowledge and wisdom and insight and all those things. Pray together, pray over your children and your family and your income and your finances and your dreams and your everything. You should be wanting to be in a relationship where y'all could grow tremendously together in oneness under God, and not a relationship where they want to do them and they literally are expecting you to do you, because they don't really care too much to really, they're not invested truly. I really don't see any part of the relationship where he was truly invested, where he was truly committed, that he really loved me. When I tell you, it felt like there was such a resentment, like, what did I do? And then now I'm realizing some of the conversations that we had, he would say things like, you think you're a saint. I didn't even know that was a red flag. I didn't even know that was an issue. He thought I was a saint. He thought that I was too good for him. He thought these things. And it's because of how I carried myself. So, we're not going to go too deep into that, because I recognize it for what it is now. You're deflecting because you have some challenges within yourself. Maybe he wants better. Maybe he wants to be a better person. Maybe he wants to grow in certain areas, and to see me, a younger woman that is truly living this lifestyle. And then, like, even that is kind of like, I have to think about his intentions too. It's like, you had these great qualities about you, Jessica, and you're awesome in all these ways and dope in all these ways, but he didn't make you an honest. All right, so like I said, it was interrupted. I'm gonna continue this when I get a quiet moment. So y'all stay tuned, and I will be back when I get a chance. Your girl is back. I am so sorry. I got caught up. The bell rang, and then school let out and all the kids were coming home. But I was so dedicated to getting this video completed that I said, okay, I'm going to get it done when everybody's sleeping. So it's the end of the night. I am getting ready to call it a night. Everybody's sleeping, but I wanted to keep my word and get this done, and I'm so proud of me. So let's get right into it. So when I left off on the previous part of the video, I was mentioning how maybe he wanted to be a better man. Maybe that was his struggle. And it wasn't so much like, I realized that I wasn't his problem. I wasn't his issue. As bad as he made me feel, as bad as his action caused me to, like, basically tear myself apart because I was wondering what I did wrong, I started to take a look back into the situation. I took a step back and looked back into the situation. I realized I wasn't this man's issue. Did I have some issues? Absolutely. I believe that God was showing me me. God was showing me me. But I wanted to mention something because I had it written here, and I don't know at what point I wanted to share this, but I'm gonna lead with this. Eventually he sent a video to me. It was one of those videos where, these relationship gurus, they send these things out, and it's women scolding women or men scolding men, or somebody schooling somebody about men or women. Well, this person said a man doesn't care if you buy them gifts or if you do things for them. All they care about is respect. And I remember watching that video, and I was like, how does this apply to our situation? I've done things for you, yes, but I wasn't trying to buy your love. I did those things for you because you were in need. You needed help. And when you talk about respect, all I've done is respected you. I've never called you a foul name. I've never yelled at you. I've never talked to you too hard. I've always affirmed you. Things that you didn't do for me, those were the things that I did. But I realized that when people are not used to things, it's hard for them to receive it. So I had to let that go. And maybe that was the way he saw the world, and that was okay too. But I realized that I was fighting this battle that had absolutely nothing to do with me. So all the times that we had these critical moments, it really didn't. I was not the root. I was not the issue. And so I was grateful to God for showing me, show me how I showed up, how I overexerted myself. Because we know that when we are trying to set our affections on someone, we'll work overtime to let them know we value them and all these great things. And that's all good. However, we have to dwell in places where we are appreciated, in places that we will thrive. We cannot pour from an empty cup. So to give away all of yourself and have nothing left for you, that's just insanity. So I'm so grateful to God for like showing me, showing me that I actually am not afraid to love, that I'm actually gentle and kind and generous and all these great things. I have all these qualities. And some of the things that he showed me that I didn't quite like about myself was like my emotional interactions. Like sometimes I felt like I could have let some things simmer a little bit before addressing them, even if I was just, my intention was just to talk about it. Sometimes some people need more time before they're ready to talk, and that was one of the things I feel like emotional intelligence is so important, and I was not very well versed and equipped in that area, and I can improve in that area. So that was one of the things that God has showed me about that. So getting back to the point where I was saying that I was heading straight to hell based on this relationship that I got myself into. So I told you guys that I had my notes, and I will be looking down to the notes. Still have my notes here. Your girl is on a roll, and I wanted to make sure that I am speaking on the points and I'm not missing anything this time. So one of the things that I wrote here is that when lust is fulfilled, the attachment fades. And this point is so good because I realize now that said person wasn't in love with me. It was more of the physical attributes and things and the physical connection and all those things. This is why God warns us to not partake in those things, because we're actually sinning against our own bodies. But basically, even when it came to saying they loved you, that was very rare for them to tell you that they loved you. But in the act of intercourse, they will tell you that they love those parts of you. And those things would do something to my mind, because I'm like, this ain't right. You can't tell me that you love me, but you can tell me that you like those parts of me. And as women, we have so much more to offer than those parts of us. And God had to also deal with me when it came to, one of the things that God revealed to me was even seduction. That is somewhat witchcraft. I know a lot of us, we're living in a time where we see all these things. They're out in the open. We know people talk about manifestation and all these things. And basically what these things are is, how do I control my outcomes? How do I control my narrative? And we want to exclude God, and we want to do it ourselves. And so seduction can be a dangerous thing, because now in a marriage, you can do things to keep the spark going, the fire burning. In a situation like that, I'm doing all these things to keep you attracted to me. I'm doing all these things as a manipulation tactic to keep you interested, to keep you, on me. And if God, it's not God's will and you're not my ordained husband, I'm playing a dangerous game. I'm trying to seduce you. And we talking about lust. Lust fades. When it's fulfilled, it will fade. And so that's why we find ourselves in situations where in the beginning it's so hot and heavy, and we are head over heels, but somewhere along the way all the sparks die out. So we have to be careful. And like staying on the topic, I wanted to talk about the difference with love and lust. And we know the scripture that talks about love. I'm going to read that scripture real quick. So that's 1 Corinthians 13, 4-8. And I'm reading from the New International Version. I'm an NLT girl and a KJV girl. The NIV is fine. So this version says, love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no records of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. So, like I said, that is 1 Corinthians 13, 4-8. And this basically gives us the idea of what love should be. And looking back at the situation, one of the things that God highlighted was the fact that there was no forgiveness on said parties end. Like, they just didn't forgive, so they would hold things against you, they would do things to spite you. And I was just like, that's not love, so I learned so much within this relationship. So for me to sit here and be like, oh my God, it was all bad, God will use all things and work them together for your good. I will be a better woman. I will be more wise. I will make wise choices when it comes to a partner, a person that will come into my life and, that will love me well. If it's not adding up to what the word of God is saying, then I'm not wasting no time there. If you're not honoring me from the door, there's no need to proceed. So I'm so grateful that even within that pain and discomfort and disappointment and all the things that happen, God used this situation to return the honor back to me, to return my worth back to me, to return my value back to me, to return my purity back to me. I know now without a shadow of a doubt that I won't allow anyone else to ever not treat me like the queen that I am. You see, the thing is, it doesn't matter how many children I am. I have to know myself to know that the number of children that I am does not determine the woman that I am. You see, the amount of children I have just says that I am fruitful in that area. However, I've not been around. Somebody is gonna love me, respect me, honor me, value me. I am going to be the apple of somebody's eyes other than my Father God. And I just can't wait to experience that life, in love, because I love love, and I love deeply, and I love hard, and I'm a giver. I know all of these things. And listen, somebody's gonna appreciate it. Somebody that's done the work to know that these things are so valuable. So it's okay. They always used to say back in the day, one man's trash is another man's treasure, right? Am I wrong? Am I right? So I have so much hope for the future and for love. So yeah. So this here that I'm talking about now, I mentioned how I had such a deep devotion to the friendship. But like I said in my last video, I said I was crying long before the relationship was even developed. And the reason why I said that was because, previous to the relationship, we were friends, and they were already disappointing me. They're already doing so many things that were red flags. But because I love deeply, even in the capacity of friend, I would try to overlook and to forgive and get past. And so they did some things, and eventually I was like, okay, I'm cool. And we had a year and a half of separation, 18 months to be exact. We didn't speak There was nothing. And one day I got a random message, and that's when we kind of reconnected, and I was doing so good. Man, life was good. I was like on a high with my relationship with God and everything. And that when I basically took my eyes off of God to pay attention to this thing that came back around, I literally started to like go back into old habits. So remember how I mentioned earlier how I realized that my dedication had shifted. So now I'm giving all of those things to this person again. And so I was in such a good space, y'all. I had lost all this weight. I was working on myself. I was loving on me. I was thriving. My energies were good. And what I realized is that that person, it's like they needed to be a part of that. They needed to like experience that, like they needed it. It was like supply to them. And so that supply, it made them feel good that they had somebody that was on this high. But the moment when things started to kind of like shift, and this was long in within the relationship, once if you're not doing good or something happened or life begins to life, it just seemed like now you're not smiling as much. Some days you're gonna frown because things are not, going quite how you would like them to go. And it's like they can't get high off of that. They can't gain anything from that, and so you can see where their affections shift or whatever. And that was a part of my experience. So also what I put here was, when someone studies you to ensure that they know your triggers, not so that they could avoid them, but so that they can use them to wound you. So if any of you know, when you get into a relationship, we often, don't share too much while dating. But when we have set ourselves like the investment is here, the commitment is here, and all these things, we find ourselves opening up a little bit more. So we share things that we may not share with other people, things that are sensitive, not so much for everybody to know, the closest people, right? And I shared some things from the traumas of my childhood and everything. And they did not take those things into consideration to be like, how I'm gonna love on this woman and kind of help her heal, or add to her healing or whatever. But instead they saw those as weak spots. They saw those things as spots where they can use or weaponize, and that's a no-no. And I'm telling you now, God is so good, because see, the thing is, what he didn't know is that it was actually not a weak spot for me. I had done so much therapy, and my therapist, I've had several therapists, but my therapist would always say, you are so self-aware. And so he didn't know that I've done so much work that that's not actually a weak spot. It's actually a superpower. I know what I've been through. Yes, I've been broken. Yes, I've been bruised. Yes, I've been through hell. However, it doesn't define me and who I am today. As a matter of fact, I've done the work that's necessary so that I could stand firm, that I could stand with my head held high. And I was very disappointed when I recognized that he was using those things. It hurt to the core because I couldn't believe it. I talked about what I came in agreement with, like, when we get in a relationship, we make vows and we agree to stuff. And the truth is, when I got into this relationship, I basically asked certain questions, and one of them was basically how, did they believe in God and stuff like that. They believe in a God, but I'm not sure what the relationship is, honestly, because I asked that question also, do you have a relationship? And they said yes. However, there was no real fruit. There was no evidence I've never seen them pray. I've never, I've prayed with them. I've asked them, like, hey, like, let's pray together, and I would pray, but I've never seen them pray. I've never heard them pray. I've never seen them devote anything to God. So I was just like, we have to also keep our eyes open and our ears open when it comes to the people that we're interested in. What does their prayer life look like? What does their relationship with God look like? Is there any fruit? Because when you're in a relationship with God, there is evidence and there is fruit. God is a provider. He's a healer. He's a miracle worker. You could see it all over my life. But I didn't see the evidence on his life. Now, he may have his own relationship. Maybe he's one of those people that pray internally. I don't know. But like that external evidence, there was nothing. One of the things that I spoke about or wrote in my notes was, I struggled. When you put so much of a emphasis on friendship, and when you go through so much and you realize that, man, this person was manipulating me, it's a hard pill to swallow. I didn't want to believe that this person was manipulating me. And it was at the very end, when so many things were unraveling, that I realized, because they were still trying to. And at that point, when you're at the end, you're kind of like, the scales have fallen off. You're more aware of everything, and you're paying attention to everything. And like I said, I was committed to us being friends for the strength of the child. And so when I realized they were still trying to manipulate me, I had to come to terms with things. I had to come to terms with it. Like, this person was manipulating me all along. All the times when they said they didn't do this on purpose or whatever, they were playing a game. Oh, there is so much I can say when it comes to like manipulation, because people manipulate you to get what they want from you. And that was going on the whole time. So now that I've accepted it, it's kind of gotten me to a place of like, girl, it's okay. Yes, it's devastating. Yes, it hurts, but it's okay. Because guess what? It's their loss and not your own. You know that you can hold your head high. You can sleep at night. You have complete peace because you showed up as the best version of yourself. And that's why I said, because of what I had gone through before, I knew that didn't break me to the point where I couldn't love. I was able to love. Yes, I was glad to know that, I would take a chance with love again. So because of what I had gone through, I thought that thing really broke me, and I wasn't going to be able to give up my heart again, because I had put some things in place to kind of like guard myself. But we know how, sometimes you can be blocking love because you're trying to protect yourself. And so I didn't want to be that person. I didn't want to stand in my own way. So I am glad that, because even now, after everything, you guys heard what I said, that I'm very hopeful still for love and for future and for partnership and a fiery thing and everything. So I have here in my notes where I went back to lust again, and I said perversion and love cannot be fulfilled. I had realized that this person had preyed on me. I saw so clear that I was prey all along. He used all the things that I shared in vulnerable moments against me. So I think I had got over all my points that I wanted to talk about, because honestly, when I looked at my notes, I'm like, girl, you kind of went over that one already, and I didn't want to like keep overlapping pieces of the story or pieces of my testimony. So I'm just gonna organically finish this video out. I'm gonna finish out talking about what I was mentioning about seduction and these things being like witchcraft, and talking about some of the things that he did, that basically is witchcraft. Like when you are intentionally moving in ways sexually to control, to have power over someone. And this was one of the things that God has shown me about like sexual magic. Like people have these things where this is where we hear young people say things like, oh, you know, I could take your baby dad, or I could take your woman, and all these things. People put too much emphasis on what they can do in the bedroom. And so they literally watch porn, they literally practice all kinds of stuff because they want to be powerful in those areas. And so they do things like implant themselves inside of you, and their intentions are set. They're moving in ways to seduce you, and it is perverted. And then you find yourself feeling like you can't stop thinking about them. You can't, and it becomes like really, you know, yeah, it's wickedness. That's wickedness. God created it for us to enjoy it and for us to reproduce and all these things. He did not create it for us to figure out who was better at what and who can hold this one and who can, you know. My ex used to always say, oh, I've got you pegged. He thought that he knew me better than anything, because see, one of the things that I did was, it was like anything goes when it came with him. And prior to him, I wasn't even like that. I was more, you would say, conservative. I was more uptight. I was not relaxed around those kinds of things because I had such a guilt at times when I would partake in it, because I knew that I shouldn't be doing it. However, because of what I had lost as a child, the innocence that I had lost, I felt like I had to transactionally give those parts of me away for people to in turn love me and see me and value me. And you know, it's crazy because now I'm like, wow, God, you have used this thing to show me so much. And this is why we are equipped to tear down the enemy's camp, because see, now I have insight, I have intel. I want to warn someone else to not make the same mistakes. Don't give away all your goods. You are worthy of true love, a kingdom love, a love that is going to transform your life, your partner's life, those children that you guys create, those all around you, because they would see that love and they will want to, you know, have access to a love that is that pure. So I participated in some things, and I realized now that God, you know, I had to repent for all the times that I was so caught up in, you know, doing this to make sure, to ensure that the spark stayed and all this stuff. Like, you don't have to work that hard, especially when it's a partnership. Both of you guys are working together to fulfill each other, to keep each other, you know, happy and pleased and all these things. It's not so much on, I need to move this kind of way, because, and then you're operating in fear too. You're operating in fear too, because you're thinking, okay, if I don't do such and such, somebody else will, because that's what they want you to do too, which is control. That's not healthy, and it's not of God. So it's so much that I experience. It's so much that, you know, I've learned. And I just hope that when I finally put this video out there, that it will reach the people or person that it should, and that you will get that, you know, that unction in your spirit to be at peace with yourself, to be dedicated to your relationship with God, and to also wait on His perfect timing. It's so easy to give in and to get that temporary satisfaction. However, it's only temporary. And then you'll get up one day and you're like, where did all the time go? And then you feel like, okay, I have to start over. I have to build again. So I just wanted to share that. I feel like this is the completion of this video. I don't feel like I need to add anything else to it. I just pray that, it does what it's supposed to do. It reaches who it's supposed to reach, and that God gets all the glory out of this testimony. Remember, we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the words of our testimonies. And so this is not, a video to let somebody else look bad, even though at the end of the day, it is what it is. The truth is what the truth is, and we let God handle everything else. We're not worried about, because I was that person back in the day. I want to say that before I go. I was that person back in the day. I had a very toxic ex, and he did a lot to me. And in the end, I would literally call females, because he was also a cheater. He was a serial cheater. And I would call them and tell them, girl, I wish somebody would have called me and tell me to run. Run for your life. Run. This one here, he's going to try to ruin your life. And so I was that girl back in the day. However, I don't feel like that's necessary, because I feel like we're living in a time where people are waking up. And I also feel like God is going to deal with that person. I don't have to do anything else, So I just wanted to share that. And I hope that it helps you in making the right decisions when it comes to your love story. You are enough. I hope that this adds value to your life. Just go forth, be blessed, know that I love you, but most importantly, God loves you. Peace.
I shine so bright, you might go